welcome back. Kelvin Emmanuel, the Chief Executive Officer of Dairy Hills, joins me now. Hello, Kelvin, and welcome to the show.
Hi.
The smile is wide, wide smile. So let's take it that everything is okay. Well, is Tinubu working, or is it still a work in progress?
I think it's a work in progress.
Or is it a Milocon mix? Is it a Milocon? No mix. Is it working?
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
It will take, in my view, I think it will take until the first quarter of 2024 for inflation to start to slow down. You have a major problem with FX. The FX problem we have in Nigeria is a crisis because the FX problem is the foundation of a lot of the issues we have. Your petrol prices are exposed to FX. Food prices are exposed to FX. The report out now that diesel is close to 1,000. In some places, it's more than 1,000 naira per liter. Mostly in places where there are no seaports. Lagos, lands in Lagos, distribution costs around Nigeria adds, cost to it. There is no petroleum equalization fund for diesel because there is no subsidy on distribution of diesel around Nigeria. Diesel is deregulated. There is an international problem of supply of crude oil feedstock to refineries in the Netherlands and in Germany currently, and that is affecting the production of diesel. There's a problem of cuts in output for OPEC and non-OPEC members, declaration of cooperation between OPEC and non-OPEC members that led to the price of crude oil going up to currently about $95 per barrel. I expect it to cross $100 per barrel. It's affecting the price of diesel. And the interesting thing is that the ships that bring in diesel to Nigeria, most of them actually run on diesel. An average ship that carries deadweight ton of about 50,000 metric tons consumes anywhere between 600 and 700 metric tons per day. And they need about 14 to 21 days to berth. Most of their duties and levies at the ports are actually paid in USD. So you have a situation where FX is this cross and center of a lot of the inflation you see in the country. Inflation at over 29% for food, at around over 25% for core inflation, headline inflation. I expect it to continue. And going into the MPC meeting the end of this month, it's very likely that the Monetary Policy Committee is going to have to raise the MPRO by at least 50 basis points. I expect them to raise it to maybe 75 or 100 basis points, but it's going to be an increase of at least 50 basis points. I think the LCCI has come out to say that they should freeze raising any money, the MPR rate so that the prime lending rate doesn't continue to go up and pendency on existing loans does not continue to bite borrowers. But it's a very difficult situation. However, if Dangote begins,
and Nigerians have been waiting for a long time.
A long time.
It's like they've been giving us deadlines upon deadlines. Well, it was to start third quarter. Third quarter is almost gone now with the end of this month. Now it's been said it's going to begin in October and all of that. So,
if it begins in the fourth quarter of 2024.
And if it begins, we should note, sorry to cut you short, Kelvin, is it that all our problems are solved?
No,
Dangote is in for profit and for business.
All of the problems will not be solved.
Yeah.
All of the problems will not be solved, but you're going to see a gradual walk back on the price of diesel because of the cost of handling, which is around 28%.
About
for landing
PMS.
diesel into Nigeria.
PMS.
I don't, the thing with PMS though is I don't expect that with the Dangote refinery functioning, that PMS prices are going to go above the current price that we have. Without
above or below?
Above. Okay. So the current pricing we have, which is in Abuja, 617, 615 naira per liter, I don't expect that it's going to go above that level. And the government, with
Dangote's addition,
I actually,
because sorry, I'm just picking stuff from what you're saying, because currently it's still at 617, and the government last month said, guys, we are putting a hold on this. We are not going to increase. So people are also asking the question: aren't we seeing that subsidy is back?
Well, it depends on
realistically, not even technically. Let me not use English.
It depends on whether the last stock that was brought into Nigeria is depleted.
But we know that the stocks are normally like for 30 days.
No, the stocks are usually
30
for
to 60 days
60
now.
days.
Yes.
Yes. So it depends on if that stock is finished. If Dangote comes,
If that stock is finished, Kelvin, hold on. You know, if that stock is finished, crude price today, 94 US dollars.
the game changer.
And you know that if crude oil also increases, it impacts
NNPC has.
PMS
I'm
at
not.
pump,
I'm
at
not
the pump
holding.
price.
I'm not holding brief for the Nigerian government. I'm not political. I'm not. I don't support any political party in Nigeria. I'm apolitical. I focus on the economics,
The issues
and the numbers.
Yes.
NNPC has FX swaps, forward contracts that have already been signed from last year, that goes up until November, which is one reason, not all the reasons, because I'm not going to exonerate NNPC from whatever accountability it needs to tender before FAC and the federal government. One reason why NNPC is paying somewhere between $200 and $250 million to the FAC account as crude oil receipts. NNPC cannot supply Dangote until those FX swaps are fulfilled in November, which is the reason why the CEO has come out to say that they've imported crude oil feedstock to Nigeria to run for at least a month or two until NNPC gets over their encumbrance and starts supplying them feedstock again. Now, if all these mechanics are together, if all these variables are together, I don't expect that Dangote will deliver petrol to distributors at more than 565, 570 naira per liter in Lagos. Now, distribution cost without petroleum equalization fund will take that to somewhere between 595 to 600 naira per liter around the country. And I expect it to stay that way. And it's important for us to understand that if you look at the supply chain for crude oil refining, AGO, Jet A1, and you can see the effect on the prices of plane tickets around Nigeria, dual-purpose kerosene, bitumen binders, refinery gases. Refinery gases, C1 to C4, C plus gases, are one of the derivatives of refining crude oil. And it brings also this LPG that we're talking about, that prices are rising. If the refinery comes into place, and if its bulk storage terminal of 297,000 metric tons actually comes into place too, you're also going to see that freeze in the hike that we're expecting in the price of cooking gas, that we expect to get to somewhere around 14 to 15,000 or 12.5 kg by Christmas. Okay, I'm not holding brief for the government, but I'm saying to you that Dangote will change the equation in terms of this accelerating inflation and freeze it at anywhere around 30%.
30% of what?
30% for food inflation.
Okay, food inflation,
yeah?
Which is still high.
Because the supply chain for ammonium nitrate gas, for naphtha, and all the derivatives that it produces for manufacturing in Nigeria, and all the effects that goes out of Nigeria for importing diesel, petrol, aviation fuel, kerosene, and all the non-transportation fuels, it will help to roll back the shock that you have from the constant pressure on the demand that has led that black market premium. So if you look at the IE window rate, 778, you look at the black market rate, 960, the black market premium is 23.3%.
And we're told there's no I&E window anymore because it's Nigeria foreign exchange market now. But whatever it is, there's still that gap between the parallel market and the official market, as it were. Now, you've raised a lot of issues. You've talked about if Dangote comes in, of course, food inflation may be impacted in the positive way, but from your own analysis, about 30%. Because where we are right now, food inflation is really triggering what we're seeing. Now, with the new appointments for the Apex Bank that the president has made, do you have confidence that the new team, if confirmed by the National Assembly or by the Senate, do you think that it will restore confidence in the Apex Bank? Restore confidence, that's one. Then number two, do you think that they'll be able to rein in inflation? Because I don't know what the thinking of this new team will be. From your own analysis, MPC will begin next week, Monday and Tuesday. You said, if I heard you right, that they may raise rates again. 18.75%, that's where it is right now. So what do you think, and this could be the last MPC for this team, so how do you think that the Cardoso-led CBN should look at inflation targeting? In other countries, we have inflation targeting actually. But here, and we've actually fallen off from single-digit inflation from the Lamido Sanusi days. So how do you think that this new management will restore confidence and inflation? Then thirdly, the monetary fiscal coordination, which has been lacking, because it seems that the two men now, Wale Edu on one side, fiscal Cardoso on the other side, are friends. They worked with this president in Lagos State. Do you see that camaraderie coming in terms of that coordination?
Nancy, before I tell you what I think they should do, I'll tell you that I was opposed or against the president appointing a banker as whether an investment or commercial banker as
governor of the central bank.
To break the tradition we've had in Nigeria, because after all, the Central Bank of Nigeria had its best performance in terms of inflation. I'm under Professor Chukwuma Soludo, the current governor of Anambra
And also
State.
under Sanusi.
Sanusi did a great
had
job.
single-digit
He did a great job.
Yeah.
He did a great job. But I'll tell you, I want you to look at this issue.
Who would you rather have been? Not a banker, who? Are you talking in terms of qualification? Would you rather be like an economist? Because Soludo was.
I wouldn't mention any names, but
No, I'm saying in terms of qualification. I'm not asking you to mention names. Tinubu has made his appointment.
I would have preferred he appointed an economist to be governor of the central bank. Look, first of all, it's important not for the CBN to react to issues and be proactive in its approach to monetary policy in Nigeria. There needs to be a comprehensive reform of the CBN Act. There needs to be a comprehensive reform of BOFIA. For example, I am against Section 33 of BOFIA that says that the authority to award banking license should rest on only the CBN governor.
Who should it now rest on?
It should be like a council for accountability, okay? It's also like a serious question of governance, and I'm sure this is one thing that the external auditors, Ernst & Young and KPMG, wrote to the central bank when they wrote the management letter after the audit, that the chairman of the board of the central bank is also the governor of the central bank. That's a conflict of interest. That has to change. Tokunbo Abiro, the chairman of Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Financial Services, was the MD of a Nigerian bank, regulated, Tier 2 bank. Okay? So he should understand that the CBN, first of all, needs to rein in ways and means, Section 38. Nancy, 23.7 trillion naira has been collateralized. 40 years, 3-year moratorium, 2026, Wale Edu has to appropriate 2.8 trillion naira in interest yearly to the central bank as overdrafts, charges. But 6.7 trillion is still floating as we speak, because total ways and means is 30.4 trillion. Next year, 2024 Appropriation Act, Wale Edu has to provision for 1.4 trillion. That will be MPRA plus 30. So if, for example, this next week, they raise it by 50 or 100 basis points, it means that MPRA plus 30 is going above 22% per annum, which is ridiculous and insane. Ways and means is one major issue. So 15% of real revenues for the previous accounting year. Ghana had the same issues with ways and means, 5% for real revenues for the previous accounting year. Ghana securitized $3.5 billion last year in ways and means, considering the size of the economy as compared to Nigeria.
But the Ninth Assembly raised ours from 5% now to 15%
They raised it. But then the question is, will they keep to the 15%? That's the question we want to ask.
Now,
the chairman of FIRS, when he resumed, said that he was going to increase tax to GDP by 18%. And I smiled. I smiled because while it's very easy to say, it's very difficult to do. Because every 1% that you add is $4.4 billion in revenues. The question to him is, how do you want to raise it?
Don't you think that there are quick wins also there? In terms of, there are some people that are not paying the required taxes.
Well, if the chairman can fight...
Even in terms of harmonization.
Yes, harmonization, yes. In terms of fighting underassessment. Underassessment is a major problem for the Federal Inland Revenue Service. If he can, get that, fine. But 18%, I don't think he will achieve that in 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So that's too optimistic.
It's too optimistic. Now, Nancy, this
But
comes
where
back.
we are now
This
is
comes back.
we're at close to 11%.
No, we're not.
Yes, because they reviewed it. No
Tax-
more 6%.
No,
No more
tax
6%.
is actually
about
7.
10%. No, they reviewed it.
Okay.
They reviewed it. Yes, NAMI, they reviewed it. I think in 2022. Yes, it was reviewed that our tax to GDP ratio is no longer 6%. About 10.4% now.
Okay.
Yes.
Back to our conversation on the central bank. The central bank needs to do a comprehensive reform, restore trust and confidence and probity in the institution of the central bank. Yeah. The ongoing probe into the central bank does not give confidence to the international community, especially when it comes to how the issues about the gross and net external reserves has been handled. Yeah, the issues about security lending on the books of the central bank, $7.5 billion. The issues about FX swaps with commercial banks. Yeah, it doesn't give confidence to investors. So for example, you're asking yourself, why will the central bank devalue the currency in an attempt to unify it and not attract FDIs and FPIs into Nigeria? There's a reason why. There's a reason why. And the reason why is because you're looking at it and you're asking yourself from mature letters of credit. You can imagine mature letters of credit, Nancy. Mature letters of credit. Someone exports to Nigeria, they're expecting to get their FX deployed out, they're not able to get their FX deployed out for letters of credit to your bank, and your monies are stuck because there's no dollar for them to repatriate their money out of Nigeria. It doesn't give investors confidence because they're asking themselves, how do we do business with a country where the central bank cannot provide FX that the banks need to repatriate mature letters of credit? You have the issue of capital remittances. You have the airlines. The airlines now have an outstanding of $783 million US. In fact, the Central Bank of Ethiopia did a swap with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Ethiopian Airlines took $100 million of $280 million Dangote had trapped in Ethiopia himself. And then Nigeria gave $100 million worth of Naira at INE rate to Dangote here that Ethiopian Airline has trapped here in Nigeria. The question is, how many countries can you do this swap with?
Okay. Kelvin, we have a lot to discuss, and it seems time is just flying by. I want to bring in this concept, the concept of redenomination. I don't know if you saw what was flying a few days ago. It's fake news, though. But that brings to question in terms of managing the Naira. As it were, a lot of people were putting on WhatsApp platforms and, oh, no, that the central bank is to redenominate 1 Naira to 25. A lot of people were sending it to me. And even before the central bank came up with a statement, I just said it's ridiculous. That is actually fake news. But why I'm bringing it to fore is that the concept of redenomination, bearing in mind, I think it was Soludo, at the time, that molds that idea, but it was quickly killed years ago. The concept of redenomination, is this something we can think about in Nigeria? Because Ghana did it, and redenomination, of course, recalibration of an old currency to a new, to a new exchange rate at a fixed price. So what do you think about the concept? I'm not saying that Naira is going to be redenominated, but what we should analyze that.
Nancy, one of the impacts of having diabetes, type A, diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus, is that your wounds take longer time to heal. So the question is, somebody has diabetes and then he has a wound and it's not healing, and he's asking himself, what's going on?
You have diabetes.
And you have diabetes.
Which is the main
issue. Doing like redenomination or redecimalization. Removing an extra zero from your currency is not going to do anything. Ghana did it. The city is in crisis.
The inflation too is high.
The inflation is high. So removing it to bring back 50 Naira notes and 20 Naira notes and 10 Naira notes and 5 Naira notes and coins doesn't change the fact that inflation is double digit. Because of that, you have to align your MPR at 4% to inflation. Yeah, your debt is 77 trillion. And you're servicing debt at anywhere between 4.5 and 5 trillion Naira a year. Your civil service is bloated. You're not producing enough non-tax and tax revenue.
So what you're saying in all of this is that we have structural problems.
We have structural problems.
Which we should solve. It's not a matter of removing zeros.
It's like having diabetes and a wound that is not healing and then stamping a plaster on it.
It won't heal. Okay. All right, just 1 minute to go. What else do President Tinubu, I don't know if you listened to the first interview, what do you think President Tinubu will bring back? How do you think all this will materialize? Because he's been embarking on foreign trips at least in the last 2 weeks.
He had a meeting with the chairman of ExxonMobil.
ExxonMobil.
I want him to press the chairman to bring in new capital investments into Nigeria to build more rigs offshore that can also help the FX situation. But I was also very proud about the statement on illegal gold mining in Nigeria. If he can work with his Minister of Solid Minerals to develop not just a security framework, but also a mining regulatory framework for attracting investment and formalizing solid mineral mining in Nigeria, then he will be on the path.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Let's talk again soon.
Thank you.
All right, I was speaking with Kelvin Emmanuel, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Dairy Hills, and that's the show today. We have 2 more to go. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji.